All right, everybody, and welcome back to the probably most anticipated portion of the stream so far. Couple of things. Oh, before we get started, actually, we need to take a step back. I'm going to be running a poll during this part of the stream. I'm going to post it in chat here. All right, so anybody who wants to, there we go. Anybody who wants to participate is welcome to there. What we're doing is deciding what I'm going to be having for dinner. Because 24-hour stream, but I still got to eat. So, I figure I'm going to throw up a straw poll that includes restaurants from this casual dining tier list, and that's what we're going to use to decide what I eat today. So, anyway, without any further ado, oh, by the way, there are 2 hours. That poll's open for 2 hours before it closes. I've also put on this dope wolf hoodie. I'm really excited to announce, if you want to be able to wear the same cool wolf clothes that I've been wearing on this stream, all you have to do is go to Amazon.com and type in wolf shirt, and they'll send them to you for like $10. It's great. All right. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm really excited about this. I put in a lot of work for it. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. Actually, wait a second. There's one more thing I need to do. One more thing I need to do before we can get started. All right. Now we can get started. All right. So, first up, let's talk about what we're doing. All right. What we're doing is defining and ranking restaurants that count as casual dining, right? Now, in the past, I've done something called a fast food tier list, where I specifically ranked fast food restaurants. And this time, what we're doing is looking at things that are a step up from that, right? So, I had to define what a casual dining restaurant is. It's a couple of things. Number one, it's not anything that was on the fast food tier list, obviously. That's a separate video. You can go to my YouTube channel if you want to see that. Typically, I went to Wikipedia to try to get some advice, and they suggested that it is a moderately priced casual dining atmosphere. So what I thought is no drive-thrus. Drive-thrus were a key component of determining what was on the fast food tier list. In that it was necessary. If no drive-thru, you weren't a fast food restaurant. With this, if you have a drive-thru, you're not a casual dining restaurant. All right. Number two is it has to employ a wait staff, right? So a place like Subway, many Subway restaurants don't have a drive-thru, but it's counter service, so that doesn't count. Chipotle, kind of same deal. So those don't count towards casual dining if you don't have a wait staff. Now, you can still be a buffet, right? It can still be a self-service style restaurant as long as there's a wait staff that comes and gives you drinks, all that kind of good stuff. And then finally, I know every time I do these, part of the fun of them is that they can be very controversial, right? I try to be as objective as I can in these rankings. I try to use a lot of really precise metrics, but some of it does come down to each individual person's palate and what they enjoy. So, to that end, there are certain restaurants that I'm not able to rank. I can't rank any restaurant that I've never eaten at. So, we can all throw out an F in chat for places like Fats, Cheddar's. I'm sure there are a lot of chains that are good, maybe deserve a place on this list, but I have never been to, so I can't rank those. All right, so now that we've decided and established what it is that we are going to be talking about, let's look at how we're going to do it, because I did this one a little bit differently. Let's take a look. Okay, so each contender, of which I think we have about 27, is going to be ranked on these categories, right? They're all going to be given a total score, and we're looking at a couple things. We're looking at number one, apps and desserts, right? We're talking about the things that aren't your entree that you order at this restaurant. What do they have to kind of set them apart? Because I'll be honest, a lot of these places are pretty similar, and this is where they feel like they can experiment a little bit more, and that's pretty exciting. Entrees, that's where the actual food comes in, and we look at not just breadth of options, but the quality of the food, right? This is where we're going to see kind of that real distinguishing mark between this and fast food. So I want to talk specifically about this next one. These next two are going to be a little bit trickier. First is the aesthetic of the restaurant. Now, this was really tough because not how nice is it. The aesthetic of the restaurant is more of how much the interior design and the decorating is part of the experience. So a 10 is a place where it's a massive component of it, and a place that's very normal or whatever, like where the interior is unimpressive, that's going to get a low score. And then our final category is the most subjective. It's that certain je ne sais quoi that each restaurant has. It's the thing that makes it unique. It's its own special brand, its own special flavor, and what puts it on the list. That's kind of why I get to put in a little bit of favoritism, but I've tried to distill it down through these other categories. All right, so we're going to take all those scores, we're going to add them all together, and then that is what we're going to use to come up with our standings. All right, so with all that said, we're going to start from the worst casual dining establishments, going all the way up to the best. Let's get going. All right, so first up we have Denny's with an 18. Now, why does Denny's get an 18? Well, apps and desserts, kind of weak. The aesthetic, it's always really dingy. The entrees, it's okay food, right? It's not bad. Where it does the best is in its certain intangible qualities, right? I wrote that Denny's is always willing to make a statement. Let me explain what I mean by that. Denny's is the only restaurant that's willing to really play jazz with bacon. They had Baconalia, where they put bacon in everything. It was really cool. Denny's doesn't really care what you think about Denny's. They're always going to be doing their thing, and I really respect that. Interesting thing, I looked up, mic static again. Let's see what I can do about that. I'm going to tweak my mic settings so it's not as staticky, and that should be a little bit better. Yeah, that should do it. Cool. Yeah, let me know if it gets bad again. I think we're in good shape though. So Denny's, yeah, it does kind of have that reputation as being an upscale Waffle House. So back in the early 2000s, NBC did a thing called Dirty Dining on 60 Minutes, where they examined they examined several restaurants from the top 10 food chains in the United States. I don't remember all the ones that were on there, but Waffle House was one of them too. Spoiler alert for later on this list, Waffle House does score higher than Denny's, which are the last place contestant. And Denny's actually did the best score. They had the fewest health violations on average out of all of these other restaurants, which is really funny because I think from the outside looking in, you'd think Denny's is the most garbagey of all of them. And, it's a breakfast place. There are a lot of breakfast options. Denny's is not the only place on this list that's specifically breakfast. And ultimately, I just couldn't score it higher than any of those. So taking up last place on our list is Denny's. All right, next up, we have Olive Garden Okay, so let me tell you just one thing about Olive Garden that I really like before we get into it, because I'm not a fan of Olive Garden. When I tried to search for Olive Garden, because I was doing a little bit of research, I was reading up on these restaurants as I ranked them, so I would have something interesting to say about them. When I Googled Olive Garden menu to look over it, because I wanted to, again, if I'm judging things by the quality of their entrees and their appetizers and their desserts, I wanted to make sure I had fresh in my mind what those things were. The first, I was looking for Applebee's, which is, spoiler alert, also on this list at some point. And the first result, it was a sponsored ad when I searched Applebee's, was why not Olive Garden instead? And I thought they were throwing mad shade, and I really liked that about them. That's the coolest thing Olive Garden's ever done. So yeah, but unfortunately, this is where some of my bias comes in, because appetizers and desserts, nothing. They don't really have anything for me. They do have unlimited breadsticks, which is where they got almost all of their points, but Italian food, which they specialize in, doesn't have a ton of unique appetizers in the casual dining realm, and it's hard for me to give them a lot of credit there. Again, with the entrees, I'm not a big fan of pasta, and that's a problem at Olive Garden. Unless you want soup, salad, breadsticks, or pasta, that's kind of your only options. So here's the funny thing about that, though. Every time I go there, they do soup, salad, endless pasta, endless breadsticks. Right? Yeah, they'll mess you up with carbs, and that's the cool thing about them. Every time I go there, because they offer mostly vegetarian dishes. Admittedly, I've only been a handful of times in my life, but every time I've gone, I've ordered something that was vegetarian, and they've asked me, "Oh, that's great, you're vegetarian." I'm like, "No, you just don't have meat options." That's okay. So, Olive Garden is, it's hard. I think it maybe is getting a little bit of the short stick on this list because I don't like any of the food there. But on the other hand, if I don't like any of the food there, that's not a good sign for the restaurant. So, take that how you will. Olive Garden is the second lowest scorer on our casual dining tier list. All right, Ruby Tuesdays. Ruby Tuesdays is one of a series of restaurants that we're going to talk about that are all under this umbrella of generic American restaurant, I guess. It's kind of hard to explain what sets them apart without naming all of the other ones, but you can get a hamburger. Ruby Tuesdays is a little bit unique because it has a really big, really nice salad bar, I'm told. Again, it doesn't really have anything to offer me, but people who like that really like it. They did, so I mentioned the implosion scandal. They did a rebranding. I don't remember if you have any familiarity with Ruby Tuesdays, but back in the 90s, they had a different logo, they had a different storefront design, and they've kind of redesigned all of that. So now, what they did a big thing where they were destroying all of the old Ruby Tuesdays to build them back up from the ashes like a phoenix. And they televised the implosion of the first Ruby Tuesdays, which was also the last one that was being remodeled. And people got mad because I guess they'd claimed they were doing it live and they showed a recording, and I guess people were very invested in the implosion of this one Ruby Tuesdays. So that was a source of controversy. Anyway, yeah, that's Ruby Tuesdays. I don't have a ton to say about it because there are other options that basically have the exact same entree menu, but outperform it in a lot of other areas. And then finally we have the California Pizza Kitchen. It's the lowest scoring pizza dine-in restaurant on this list, and I really had to think about that because the thing that's tough for me about California Pizza Kitchen is the food's pretty good. Like, the food, it's placing on this tier list is almost deceptive because of how good the food actually is. And that's weird. But the thing about the food too, and that the one thing this place does, there's one other restaurant that does this, and we'll talk about it when we get to them. They've commercialized super well. I can get California Pizza Kitchen pizzas in any grocery store around me, and they heat up great. They're way better than other frozen pizza. But as far as being in the actual restaurant, it doesn't really offer a whole lot. They are credited on their Wikipedia page, where many of these fun facts that I'm going to regale you all with came from. They're credited with being the first restaurant to commercialize non-traditional pizza. Wikipedia's example of a non-traditional pizza being like a barbecue pizza or a chicken bacon ranch, both of which are awesome. I really, really love both of those. But there are other restaurants later on this list that I think do more of that and that do it better, and because of that, there's just no way I could score California Pizza Kitchen higher than them. So they get some points for being kind of a progenitor of a certain field of casual dining pizza, as opposed to like Domino's or Pizza Hut or whatever. But it's hard for me to give them full credit for like I don't know, being the first to do something only gets you so far when somebody else is doing it better. So that's California Pizza Kitchen. And that is our first tier of restaurants. So after we finish each tier, I'm going to go through, we'll do a quick recap. As we can see, that's the lowest tier. That's the restaurants that scored below 20 points. This was a very competitive tier list, I should say. Much more so than the fast food one. You'll see that some of these ranges are very tight because we had a lot of restaurants that are scored that got the exact same score for different reasons. And so what I did in those situations is that I put them in the order that I thought they were in quality. That's again me making a little bit of a judgment call. So when you see these checkpoint screens, know that the order, the closer they are to the top of their list, the better I think they are. So even if they have the same score, I did try to order them within each tier. Also, each one of these checkpoints, I'm going to go ahead and remind everybody, vote in the straw poll, decide what I eat for dinner tonight. And that's going to be important because I'm probably going to have to eat it on stream because we're streaming for another several hours. We got until 9 a.m. tomorrow morning. Ruby Tuesdays is tragically low. Well, we'll see. We'll see. Look at what some of the other options are. So Golden Corral. Look, go back, watch the video on when I upload it to YouTube. I said good things about the salad bar. Golden Corral. Okay. This one was kind of a surprise because I haven't been to Golden Corral in a long time, but there have actually been a lot of days I thought, hey, Golden Corral sounds pretty good. But then there's also been a lot of days where I didn't go to Golden Corral after thinking that. In fact, there's been almost 100% of those days I didn't go to Golden Corral after thinking that. It got a really good score on both appetizers, desserts, and entrees simply because of quantity. I mean, it's a buffet, and it might be the only buffet on this list that I think of. And the food quality is reasonable, right? It's not the best, but given that you go there to eat yourself into a coma, it does a really good job of that. So maybe it's better in theory than practice. You can buy your buffet to go by the pound, which is kind of crazy. It's not something you're going to catch me doing, but I have seen other people do it. And you can definitely get your steak cooked to order at Golden Corral through a buffet, and that deserves at least a few points. So, didn't get any points for aesthetic because it doesn't have any sort of aesthetic design. I think we talked about the unique qualities of it, which is that it is the only all-you-can-eat buffet-style restaurant on this list. Anyway, Golden Corral is bringing in the lowest spot on our second tier. All right, so next up, we have Applebee's. So Applebee's was in that same category of restaurant that I talked about when I mentioned Ruby Tuesdays, of like generic American cuisine. Biggest difference between Applebee's and Ruby Tuesdays, you'll notice, by the way, if you look at the actual total points scored, it's not a big difference. It's like 4 points. Applebee's is just better. Like, the quality is better. Applebee's is also making itself very accessible. They've got this great 2 for $20 deal where you get like 2 entrees off a select list of entrees plus an appetizer for 2 people for $20. You can't beat that, right? That's awesome. The appetizers are good. They're not as good as some of the other places that we're going to see on this list. The real reason that Applebee's outscored Ruby Tuesdays is this thing that I don't really know how to explain. It was when I was in graduate school. A lot of times I would be invited out for drinks by friends' places, or like we'd say, hey, we got this thing, you want to meet up afterwards? And the place people wanted to meet up was the Applebee's bar. And that was always bewildering to me because it didn't last that long. It only lasted for like a semester. But that was like the hot spot for a period, and I can't explain it, but I have been overserved at an Applebee's, so that's got to count for something. Anyway, on to the next restaurant on the list. We've got O'Charley's. This was a really difficult one to rank because I really like O'Charley's. I have a really fond set of memories of going there as a kid. There was a bunch of stuff that I really like on the menu, but frankly, it's very basic. It's hard for me to say there's something very special about O'Charley's over other restaurants, and that's ultimately what keeps it pretty low. The aesthetic is very generic. Has very good appetizers, I will say that. They probably do the best potato skins on this list, and that's really saying something when you look at some of the other contenders. Now, admittedly, probably more than half of these restaurants don't serve potato skins as an appetizer, but still. The one thing that I will say is potato soup and app or an entree. That's up to the restaurant to define. In this case, that's really nice because I think the apps and entrees got the same score, so that's cool. I will say this about O'Charley's. This is the one thing that sets them apart and that kind of keeps them in the game. They do a weekly menu. So, like, Tuesday is all-you-can-eat chicken fingers if you want to eat in. And Wednesday is free pie day. And there are other ones, but I don't remember because I don't go to O'Charley's that often. And that's really cool, right? Because their chicken fingers are good. The pie is, free dessert, whatever. So they're trying, but they're kind of, and there's another restaurant that's like this later on. They have the baseline for what I started judging everything else from, and so I can't really rate them any higher than that. So next up, also they're doing a little bit better. We've broken that 23-point barrier. We have Mellow Mushroom, and this is really what I meant when I talked about California Pizza Kitchen in the lower tier. Mellow Mushroom does everything California Pizza Kitchen does, but better. I do think this is like I know it started in Atlanta, and so I don't know how widespread this chain is, but I do think it's in several states. Actually, a couple of the restaurants we're going to talk about here started in Atlanta, so I may have a little bit of a shifted perspective on their reach. But this one in particular is really cool. It has a real, psychedelic kind of vibe to it, and these guys will really jazz up some pizza. I mean, I've had, Cajun seafood pizza that was great, and they've got, they do all the other stuff, like buffalo chicken, and they can do standard pizzas. I've had their calzones, they're pretty good. They've got other things on the menu that aren't pizza. They're not pizza. This place is a pizza place. It's the best dine-in pizza. The crust is phenomenal. I'm normally a thin crust guy, but their crust is made out of the same dough that they make their pretzels with, and it's really, really good. So you add that and the fact that aesthetically it's like if you had a stoner paint murals all over a restaurant. It's like that, because it is that. And that's pretty cool. So that's Mellow Mushroom. And then we have Steak and Shake. And this was a tough one because I like Steak and Shake a lot. So Steak and Shake doesn't actually get a lot of points off of apps and zerts because they have virtually no appetizers, which that's a problem for me. But very good milkshakes. Very, very good milkshakes. Oh, hey! No problem, Peeves. Welcome to the stream. We're in the middle of our casual dining tier list, so hopefully... My mic sucks? What's wrong with my mic? Okay, I'm gonna... Let me try this. Boop. And is my mic working now? Oh, it is still working. You know what the problem is? It's not using the right microphone. That is probably part of the problem. Okay, so now I've switched over. I've switched it over. Is the audio quality any better? I'm sorry for everybody who was dealing with that. Somehow it was picking up my webcam's mic instead of this actual microphone that I have set up for it to use, which meant that every time I was trying to adjust the volume on the microphone with its settings, that wasn't doing anything. What's weird is I thought I had it working before. Oh well. It's super quiet. Yeah, it's probably quiet because... Yeah. Alright, it should be quite a bit better now. Probably because of all of the volume settings that I had to do. So I'm going to take just a second. Alright, cool. So we should be good now. I appreciate that we were able to finally catch what that was. All I had to do was to switch to something where I'm talking instead of playing a game. Oh, wait, did it? It was pulling into your webcam mic. What a mess. It sounds like you're no longer using the hamster. That's true, I'm not. So I'm just going to double check. All right, I think we're good. If it gets out of whack, let me know. So anyway, Steak and Shake is... Milkshakes are very, very good. The aesthetic is... It's supposed to be a very Midwestern diner, and this is something that I wanted to get into because I live in the southeastern United States, which is not the Midwest. But I do visit there because I have family there from time to time, and the biggest thing they do differently is chili. And this is a big part of Steak and Shake too, so this is why I'm going to get into it. They do chili on spaghetti. They do chili dogs, but they do a different kind of chili where it's like really, really finely ground beef. It's not like chunky. It's very smooth chili. It's almost like a sauce. Anyway, Steak and Shake really hits up that kind of chili, and it's pretty good. They also are willing to go crazy with cheese. They'll just cheese up whatever you want. The other thing I will say about them, it's 24/7 access to technically what is better than most fast food hamburgers. I think better than just about any fast food hamburger. And you can get it through a drive-thru. You got to have a lot of time on your hands because this is not a drive-thru place. That's why it's on the casual dining tier list and not the fast food tier list. So it's pretty good, but it's like trying to straddle those two worlds of casual dining and fast food. And, well, that's just tough. You just can't live in both. And then Taco Mac. Okay, so show of hands in chat if you have Taco Mac where you are, because this is another one that originated from the Southeast, and I don't know that it has the same widespread that some of these others do. Taco Mac is a really interesting restaurant. It does serve some tacos, but that's not really what they do. It's actually a wings place. It's a sports bar, and the reason they got their name, according to legend, and by legend I mean I saw this on the back of their menu and I confirmed it on their website last night. When they purchased the restaurant, it was a bar called T-Max, and they had enough money to either renovate the kitchen or rebrand the decor and the sign, and they chose to renovate the kitchen. So they left it as Taco Mac, even though it was now predominantly like a hot wings place. What I don't believe about that is I'm pretty sure it costs way more money to renovate a kitchen than it does to change the sign outside of a restaurant. I don't know. I don't work in restaurants, but I would be willing to wager one of those is more expensive than the other by a lot. Anyway, it's really good. It's a place that I get really excited anytime I see. It is on the list of options for what we'll have an order for dinner tonight. It's just very solid. They've got something they do that's really cool too is they cultivate return customers by setting a goal. They do this thing called Bruniversity. This is probably, of all the restaurants that we're going to talk about on this list, is the one that features alcohol the heaviest. They have this thing you can sign up for where they keep track. You get like a scorecard for what you drink, and you can like level up by drinking more beer, which is really cool. Yeah, I appreciate the wonderful compliments on my looks. I'm wearing Wolf merchandise. If you want some, you can click on the links below. It'll take you to Amazon.com. All you gotta do is type in Wolf shirt, and they'll send you any Wolf shirt that you pay for. It's great. And yeah, Taco Mac is really good. That became kind of my baseline choice for these sports bar kind of places. I talked about how Charlie's was setting a bar. Taco Mac is setting a bar as well, a little bit higher. So that's them. And that's the next checkpoint on our tier list. So let's take a second. Let's look back at where we've been before we got to where we are. We started off at the bottom with Denny's, then Olive Garden, followed by Ruby Tuesdays with their massive salad bar that everybody loves, but nobody loves enough to actually go to Ruby Tuesdays. That's why it's at the bottom. Then California Pizza Kitchen. Is Sonic America's Sonic is not going to be on this list. I would rank it God tier. I did rank it God tier on my fast food tier list. Actually, maybe at 100 followers, I will revise my fast food tier list. I'll see if there's any restaurants that I left off that I should have added on. I know Cookout needed to be on there, so just something to think about for the future. Then we got into our next tier, which is restaurants of 20 to 25 points. Golden Corral, Applebee's, O'Charlie's, Mellow Mushroom, Steak and Shake, and then Taco Mac. Again, for anybody who's come in late, I'm going to post the straw poll again in the chat. Feel free to vote on what we're having for dinner tonight. Because I got to sit here and stream for the next, not 24 hours, but a lot of hours. 18 hours, 17 and a half hours, and I gotta eat at some point, so I'm gonna have a stranger bring it to me through DoorDash. All right, let's get into the next tier. This is where things start to get pretty spicy, all right, because we're getting to the point where we're gonna have a lot of restaurants where the score is tied. So bringing up the rear of our third tier is Texas Roadhouse. All right, so Texas Roadhouse is a really interesting place. Number one, first and foremost, let's get it out there. The aesthetic is pretty good. They give you peanuts, all you can eat peanuts, and they want you to throw the shells on the floor, and that's just fun, right? Like, who doesn't like that? I want to address something that I learned about yesterday called the Texas Roadhouse controversy. This was in Maryland, I think. Is where it allegedly occurred. This is gonna get very serious. 2 police officers were shot, and during the exchange of fire, several restaurants in the area had to close down. Texas Roadhouse being one of them. They also were forced to close the next day, allegedly, for a funeral procession. The Texas Roadhouse manager attempted to sue the city for $9,000 in lost wages. This has been proven to be false. This has been investigated and determined to be an urban legend. So don't let that stain Texas Roadhouse. Also, it like almost all of these restaurants operates very heavily on the franchise model. They're all owned independently. I've been told, but I haven't experienced it firsthand because it's been a while since I've been to Texas Roadhouse. If it's your birthday, they all go come out and line dance for you. And that sounds like something worth seeing to me. The food quality is all right. It's not the best place that we're even going to see on this list to get a steak, but it is really good. And like another place we're going to talk about on this list in the future, it very specifically targets its locations along interstates. So if you are on a really long trip somewhere, there's probably going to be multiple opportunities for you to pull over and get Texas Roadhouse, and that's just hard to beat. All right, so next up, Fuddruckers. I like Fuddruckers a lot. I can't put it higher up on this list, though. So why do I like Fuddruckers? Well, they put a lot of trust in their customers because when you order a burger, it's almost exclusively burgers. When you order a burger at Fuddruckers, what you get is just that burger and like the bare minimum things that go on it. And then what they do to supplement that is they give you a bar of like condiments, but it's like every kind of condiment you could want. It's like, not just ketchup and mustard, but like they've got relish and onions and lettuce and tomato and chili, and they've just got like a pump of just liquid cheese, and they don't care. They don't care how much you hit that. They don't care what you put it on. You put it on your burger, you put it on your they don't care. You just keep going. So that's pretty cool. The burgers are really good. The inside is like it's like pseudo retro. Like it's retro now, but I don't think it was retro when it was created. It's like a place that a kid would think is an arcade, but isn't really an arcade. It's just like a place that has some arcade machines. And then it's got a bunch of like memorabilia from like the 70s and 80s kind of thing. Another really cool thing about Fuddruckers is they do hold the Guinness World Record for selling the largest commercially available hamburger. Not the largest hamburger ever made or consumed, but the largest one that was available to the public and people could purchase. And they did this for a brief period back in 2006. It was pretty cool. It was like really big. It was like 23.6 pounds, I think, something like that. It was a lot. It was really big. Fuddruckers bought out another restaurant so they could take their chef to do it. It was really cool. Got to stay hydrated. All right, so let's take a look at our next option. Hooters. Hooters is a little problematic, right? Let's be honest. They have if you go to their Wikipedia page and you look at their controversies section, you'll notice it is by far the largest section of their page. And if you investigate the controversies section of Hooters' Wikipedia page, you will see that they were found at fault or settled out of court for almost everything they were alleged to have done. So that is a problem. The other thing, though, it seems that you can say about this place is that they do make the changes once you make them. If that makes sense? I don't know if that's worth a whole lot. My experience with Hooters is pretty limited. There's 2 times I've been that really stood out. I've been more than that, but there were really like 2 that were really good, surprisingly good experiences. They both had to do with times I didn't have a television in my home, and there was something I wanted to watch on TV. One time it was a football game, and I went and met a friend and had a drink, and it was really nice, and it was a cool place to watch TV. The other time I wanted to watch WWE SummerSlam 2012, and I wasn't about to pay $100 to watch it on pay-per-view. So I called around to find a sports bar that was playing it, and Hooters was, and it was just a cool place to go. There were a bunch of other like people there watching wrestling, and it was a lot of fun. Their appetizer game is really on point. They know how to take bar food and just do it. The food itself is kind of lackluster. it's mainly the main thing I like about it is that I could go and watch wrestling there without paying a ton of money to like order it off pay-per-view. The other fun fact is the first location opened on April 1st because the owners all thought it was a joke and was going to fail. So what can you do? So anyway, there's Hooters for you. Up next is Cracker Barrel. Now, I talked a little bit about this during the Texas Roadhouse segment when I said there's a place that's a staple of the American highway system. Well, Cracker Barrel is that in spades. They seem to specifically target the American highway system with where they build their locations. I don't think I've ever seen one more than 2 miles from an interstate exit. Cracker Barrel is a weird one. It's predominantly breakfast, and it's pretty good. I actually went to Cracker Barrel very recently. It was just last week because I was on a road trip. I had to go to Ohio from Atlanta, which is about an 8.5 hour drive, and we stopped at Cracker Barrel, and it was awesome. But the thing about Cracker Barrel is like, so you go and it's supposed to be an old-timey general store, but like nothing they sell is useful to anyone. I don't know who any of it's for. There's a lot of candy, which looked appealing, but they sell like a lot of stuff, and you can buy a chair. Apparently the chairs are really good. You can buy a giant checkers set. You can play that peg game where it tells you how smart you are. It's just that it has no audience. But again, the aesthetic quality that I'm judging these restaurants on is how much the interior design is core to the experience of eating there. And for Cracker Barrel, it really is. You can't understate how much of Cracker Barrel is being in Cracker Barrel. Even the dining room, like when you're away from the weird store that they do, is very good. So when I say that they have a very chill board of directors, this was really interesting because back in the late 90s, the president or CEO, I don't remember exactly, I have to look it up again on their Wikipedia page, mentioned that he was putting in place hiring practices specifically to promote the normal heterosexual lifestyle, to which the board of directors said, that's not okay. We are voting to remove all upper management of Cracker Barrel. To which the president said, I was just kidding. I'm sorry. Here you go with these not discriminatory hiring practices. To which the board of directors then said, all right, cool. We've decided to vote only to remove you. We're going to keep the rest of upper management. I thought that was awesome. Especially back in the 90s when, unfortunately, we hadn't made some of the strides we had today in that regard. So good on Cracker Barrel's board of directors from back then. I'm sure it's all different people now, and who knows. But anyway, yeah, Cracker Barrel is great. You can always find something you like there. It's a good place. All right, Buffalo Wild Wings, also known as BW3, depending on where you are. I think if you're in the Northeast, it's Buffalo Wild Wings and Weck, because beef on Weck is a sandwich that I think it's kind of like a roast beef sandwich, like you could buy at Arby's, but nicer. I'm not entirely sure. Food is really, really good, but I'm a hot wings guy. The other thing this place does really well is they've got a hot wings challenge, and that's one of the things that when 2020 came around and I made my list of New Year's resolutions, there were many things on there, and one was I'm going to do a food challenge some point this year. And a hot wings challenge is currently the forerunner for what I'm going to do. So if that's something people are interested in, I'll figure out a way to get that around. Yeah, I agree. But at the very least, I don't have to pay for a t-shirt, so that's cool. Hopefully, if I can do it. I think I can do it. I like spicy food. Appetizer game on point. Buffalo Wild Wings, surprisingly, this was my first choice when I talked about during Hooters that I wanted a place to watch wrestling. I tried to go to Buffalo Wild Wings, and there weren't any that were showing it. And there was one that said they were showing it, and then when I showed up, they said, we're actually not. So that kind of sucks. But yeah, this place is pretty good. It's the most sports bar of all the places that are going to be sports bars on this list. So Buffalo Wild Wings comes in right here at 26 points. And then we've got Waffle House. Waffle House was kind of outperforming a lot of the places on this. Appetizers and desserts. Really what hamstrung Waffle House is they don't have anything that counts as an appetizer and desserts. What do you mean opinions on colors? If Waffle House had... they got pie. They kind of got pie, yeah. If Waffle House had more of an appetizer game, I would probably... Well, the pie gave them 2 points, but the pie's not going to get you 10 points. It's not like they have 50 kinds of pie. It's not like the pie is the best pie in the world. They got it. It's good. It's literally the only game in town. Entrees, though, are really good. And so, again, this is another restaurant chain that started in Atlanta. It has a really big reach. Many states have more than 100 Waffle Houses. Georgia has almost 500 Waffle Houses, which is insane. It's it's a real anything goes kind of place, and that's what I love about it. My younger brothers used to go to this one Waffle House back when we were younger, and they would go there all the time. They just get hash browns, just like their thing they want to do. If they, it's late at night, they were both up. They're like, hey, let's go get some hash browns, go to the Waffle House. And when you go to Waffle House late at night, there's not a lot of people there. And so sometimes you'll start a conversation with the chef or the wait staff or whatever. And I love Waffle House too. And this one guy recognized them from coming in so much and was like, hey, I see you guys in here all the time. Y'all always want hash browns. I've been watching a lot of Man vs. Food, and I was thinking, what if I make you some crazy hash browns, and if you eat them all, I won't charge you for them. And so he did, and they couldn't eat them all, and he did charge them for them. It was really funny. Another time I went to Waffle House, it was like 4 a.m. I went to Waffle House, and I got a to-go order. And, oh man, I've got so many Waffle House stories. Yeah, we're going to take a minute on this one. Because this is why their Je ne sais quoi is a 10 out of 10. There's just something about Waffle House. Yeah, you can gauge the severity of local disasters or national treasures based by how many Waffle Houses are open that day. So I ordered to go from this Waffle House. I show up, and there's another guy there who's also got a to-go order, and he's right in front of me. And they're like looking at our 2 orders, and they're trying to figure out which one to give. And like, oh man, we don't have any more like pre-wrapped plastic forks or whatever. Sorry guys. And I was like, oh, that's not a problem, whatever. Like I said, I'm taking this to go. I'm sure I'll go someplace that has a fork. I was going back to my home where I had a fork. This other guy freaked out. He's like, you don't give me a fork? How am I gonna eat this waffle? And he like screams at these people. And so the guy behind the counter, without missing a beat's like, oh, you're right, man. And he grabs a fork, like from them, like a metal fork. It's like, here you go. And just like gives him a full set of silverware. They don't care at all. Another great time was at Waffle House for Urchin Day. This was the Urchin Day where I played Darkest Dungeon all the way through it with my friend Milligan. We went to this Waffle House, and we were kind of talking through our strategy of like, can we finish this game in the time limit that we set for ourselves, all this kind of stuff. Darkest Dungeon's a wonderful, pretty intense game. And our waiter was this dude named Lil Duval, and he was very interested in making sure that my friend drank his fill of Coca-Cola. Like, my friend ordered a Coke, drank it, and he was like immediately topping that thing off. And then at some point he was like, all right, it's time for us to go. And Lil Duval's like, listen, man, you want that coconut to-go cup? And my friend's like, no, don't worry about it.
And he's like, no, seriously. And then he brings us the check. And he's like, not too late on that to-go cup. Like, he asked 3 times. And then he's like, not going for it. He brings us one anyway. He's like, here you go, man. Gives us the Coke to go. I was like, you know, whatever. We leave it there. We go to the gas station down the street, get gas, get energy drinks, and stuff like, because, you know, gamer fuel, right? And I swear to God, I almost lost my shit. I thought we were going to get murdered when my friend comes out of this gas station with a Coke slushie and a bag with 2 Cokes in it. Like, Lil Duval was trying to hook this man up. I thought he didn't want the Coke. It turns out he wanted more Coke. It was crazy. Anyway, I love Waffle House. Just so much fun stuff happens there. It's great. Yeah, it really is. Lack of appetizers, lack of desserts really hits it, but it's a good place. That's why when I had some discretion to rate it against the other restaurants that also scored 26 points, I gave it a pretty good score. I kind of put it above those. Next up, we have the bottom of the 27-point tier. There's a lot of, again, very razor-thin margins on this tier list. I love all of these places. The Cheesecake Factory. This place seems to sell everything. And that's pretty cool. The widest variety of appetizers and desserts among anything that I looked at for this tier list. That's why they get a 10 out of 10 there for sure. Yeah, you think this one's divisive? I'm curious to see what people have to say about it. The food quality, it's kind of like the Arby's conundrum from if you looked at my fast food tier list, where the food quality is fine. It's much better than Arby's, don't get me wrong. But is the ratio of price to quality working in the customer's favor? I don't know. I guess I'd say the value of the food is not great. It is good. It's better than average. It's better than most of the restaurants below it, but it's not proportionately more expensive. And that's kind of a problem. The aesthetic is very bland except for the outside of the building, which is very fancy. It's usually how you know you're at the most still running of malls in America. Yeah, I'll be honest, it's been a really long time since I actually ate inside one of these. A lot of times I'll, when I have eaten it, I've ordered it to go, usually through DoorDash, which again, we are running a DoorDash, not DoorDash, poll to decide what I will order off DoorDash for dinner later tonight. The other thing I really like about the Cheesecake Factory is it did start as a cheesecake store. It wasn't always a restaurant where they named it the Cheesecake Factory. It was just a bakery some lady ran, and she made really good cheesecake, and then it just kind of blew up from there. So that's cool. I like that. Don't look at the calorie count or anything on the menu. It's all like 4,000 or more. P.F. Chang's. All right. So P.F. Chang's is a place that I discovered late in life. Not till I was but 30, and time to open up a new bubbly. We are switching, for anyone who's interested in what flavor seltzer water I've been drinking all day, we're switching from grapefruit to strawberry. And then earlier we had black cherry, which is great. Yummy. P.F. Chang's, really solid appetizers. The lettuce wraps are super good. I had the barbecue spare ribs earlier. They've got crab rangoons that honestly, okay, you ever grow up in like a certain kind of maybe income bracket where you're used to the cheap version of something and then you like it, and so when you have the real version of it, it tastes weird. I would do now. Peebs, I think we should do a bubbly tier list because I love me some flavored waters. That's a good idea for a future stream. I might steal that. Or you know what? Maybe I'll let you do that. Yeah, nobody knows what PF stands for. It's like a mystery. It is pretty fancy. It's surprisingly fancy. The the thing I love is that it is officially described as having Asian flavors, which is a really weird statement to give. The The fortune cookies are really funny. We got PF Chang's earlier this week actually because we had a gift card, and the fortune cookie that one of us got was the braised spare ribs are a hidden treasure in PF Chang's menu. that really got me because hey, they are. The food is really really good at PF Chang's. And they have like any of the standard things you would get from like a generic Asian food place. You can get a really good version of it there. You can also get some things that I never would have thought to try, like this mango walnut shrimp, which it's not really my jam normally. When I saw that on the menu, I wasn't super into it. But then I tried it and it was awesome. It was so much better than like the Szechuan beef that I got, which was also very good. PF Chang's is really high quality, really cool place. We still have some more gift cards. We'll probably go back there again. One thing I will say about PF Chang's, pay in cash. They have been breached several times, it turns out. They have awful data security. Don't sign up for any sort of rewards program through them unless you want to use a throwaway account. They get hacked a lot, it turns out. So, yeah. That's just a fun PF Chang's fact. They don't know how to store customer data in a secure way. All right, and that is another checkpoint. We're coming down to the wire on this one. We've only got actually there's a lot of restaurants in that 28 to 29. Again, I said these razor thin margins. That 20 to 29 is very specifically like. It's a lot of stuff in there. But anyway, let's take a step back, look at where we have been so we can understand where we are now. So we had Denny's at the bottom. I love Baconalia, but it's not enough to save you, Denny's. I don't think I've been to Denny's since high school, and it's not for a lack of opportunity, so I can't rate them that high. Olive Garden. I have been to an Olive Garden more recently than a Denny's, but not because I wanted to go there. I will say, keep an eye out for Critical Pits. The may or may not be real podcast specifically about olives coming soon-ish, maybe? Ruby Tuesdays, great salad bar, but that's all they got going for them. California Pizza Kitchen, the progenitor of non-traditional pizza. Golden Corral, great idea in theory, kind of rough when you go there and practice. But hey, what you gonna do? Applebee's was a cool spot to drink for a while, and when I talked about value and how Cheesecake Factory doesn't have it, Applebee's has it in spades. O'Charlie's, great potato skins, great appetizers. Honestly, they have this Nashville hot chicken that's pretty good I think their headquarters are in Nashville, but I'm not in Nashville. Mellow Mushroom, groovy, gooey pizza, love it. It's awesome, phenomenal. Steak and Shake, they do a really good job of staying true to their Midwestern roots nationwide, and I gotta give them respect for that. Taco Mac, if you can only pay for a kitchen or a sign, you always buy a kitchen. Texas Roadhouse, peanuts on the floor, you just yeet them right there. It's a lot of fun. Fuddruckers lets you go wild with cheese. That's really cool. Hooters, they'll show wrestling pay-per-views. So you can go in and you can watch your sporting events without having to pay for them. Cracker Barrel on any highway, great breakfast. I had the French toast there last time, which is not something I would normally get. Normally I go be like a pancakes guy. French toast was great. It was awesome. Buffalo Wild Wings and Weck, depending on where you are. Very good wings. Wide variety of flavors. Another restaurant that I realized I should have put on this list that would have supplanted it would be Quaker Steak and Lube. But frankly, I hadn't thought about it until very, very recently. Waffle House is amazing. It really, if you look at all of the people that Waffle House beats out on this tier list, I think it did a good job on its own, because I don't think it's the kind of restaurant you think of in comparison with those others. Cheesecake Factory is pretty good. I would not be disappointed if Cheesecake Factory won tonight's poll for what I have for dinner, because I know that's basically like letting me choose anything. And then PF Chang's is pretty fine food. All right. On to the demigod tier. These are the people right under that 30-point cutoff, right? This is the creme de la creme of casual dining restaurants. Let's get to it. TGI Fridays. All right, so we talked about Ruby Tuesdays. We talked about Applebee's. Chili's, which I also forgot to put on this list, would have also been below TGI Fridays. Their appetizer game is a 10 out of 10, all right? These people know, I think it's because of Guy Fieri. These people know how to go crazy on some appetizers, and I love it. The food is pretty good. This is way better than any of those other like generic American restaurants. It is, they will make just monstrous meals. The other thing that I thought was really cool about this is a large part of TGI Fridays' success is credited to it opening around the same time that birth control pills became widely available, right? Which I thought was really interesting because it meant that TGI Fridays was unintentionally the first singles bar that was kind of like mainstream in America. And that's really funny to me. It was just a place where like you would go to meet singles and hook up, and that's awesome. They do have a dark side. We gotta talk a little bit about Operation Swill from 2013, because TGI Fridays looked a gift horse in the mouth, right? They had a good thing going for them, being America's favorite singles bar, I guess in 2013. Maybe they still were. I don't know. And they were exposed to the Better Business Bureau because it turns out in their cocktails they were diluting like top shelf alcohol with lower shelf versions of that alcohol. So TGI Fridays maybe a little underhanded. I don't know, it's hard to say. The mythos of it, like the Guy Fieri aspect of it, is just so great. I really like TGI Fridays. I wish that I went more often. For a restaurant that scores this highly on the list, I don't go very frequently, and I'm not sure why. It's really, really great. And I mean, look, the F in Fridays might as well stand for Flavor Town. You can get blasted there. Next up, Red Robin. All right, so this is a place that I don't have a ton of access to in Atlanta. It's very similar to TGI Fridays in that like Americana kind of restaurant. I think the real reason that it edges it out is the quality of the food is a little higher, even though the appetizers don't even come close. It got its name and its jingle because the owner was in a barbershop quartet and he just loved this one song, something Red Red Robin or whatever. They do bottomless fries, just standard. So like you ever go to a Mexican restaurant and they'll hit you up with chips and salsa? This place does that with fries, which is cool. The one thing I have against Red Robin, they stole what is probably my second greatest culinary invention. The first being fried pickles. I invented that. I don't care what anybody else says. I came up with it on my own. I worked at a restaurant in high school. I had access to pickles and a fryer. It didn't take long before I put those two things together. Turns out you're not supposed to fry pickles in the same fryer where you're also frying chicken. But, I didn't have a lot of oversight. That's why I fried pickles. Anyway, I invented them. They're great. In college, I invented something called the beer float, which is exactly what it sounds like. It's beer, it's ice cream. There's a lot of ways to play jazz with it. You can end up with some pretty good stuff. So I invented that. It was like a party trick. I would come up with the perfect mixtures of what beer went with which ice cream. You don't, like how do you come up with the right value on that? 2 years later, Red Robin was advertising that as just like a special promotion they were doing, and that's not okay. I would have given it to them if they'd asked. That's all I'm saying. I would have given it to them if they'd asked. Anyway, next up, IHOP, the International House of Pancakes. I love IHOP. And the problem is, my fiance does not like IHOP at all, which makes it really hard for me to eat the amount of IHOP that I want to eat. IHOP actually owns Applebee's, by the way. Did you guys know that? I don't mean like the same parent company owns both of these. I mean, one day IHOP, which was its own thing, said, we're going to buy Applebee's. And they did. That's crazy. So yeah, appetizers and desserts, they have a pretty diverse menu. I love it. That's true, you're right. I mean, it's a good point. Part of being in a relationship is knowing that there are times you need to make sacrifices, and the sacrifice is I need to eat more IHOP. The food itself is pretty good. I will give you guys a certain warning, right? The aesthetic gets a 5 out of 5. The facade of the building is very noticeable. Sometimes they're too tall. I don't like that. But the inside is very plain. When you go to IHOP for all you can eat pancakes, I've done it 3 times, and I've been done dirty. Technically, they never broke their word. But I would go for all you can eat pancakes. At first, they give you 4 pancakes. You eat them. Then they said, we'll bring them to you 2 at a time after that. I'm like, all right, no problem. So they brought me 2 more pancakes. I ate them. They brought me 2 more pancakes. I ate them. Then the waiter started being real scarce. And then he brought me 2 more pancakes. And I ate them. But there was no one to bring me more pancakes for a while. And then I put in for the pancakes and they didn't show up for a while. And I ate them. And then I asked for more pancakes. And they said, all right. And then like 20 minutes went by. And at this point, I'd been at IHOP for almost an hour and a half. And I'd only eaten 8 pancakes. And they never stopped serving me. But eventually I was like, I got other stuff I got to do. I can't keep waiting for you. I can't wait 10 minutes per pancake. I'm going to be here all day. Which, look, there are worse places to spend all day than IHOP. One of my other favorite things about IHOP is these people know how to bomb a brand, right? So their naming controversies are actually more plentiful than I realized. There was oh, did they? Oh, that's a shame because we're gonna be talking about them later. So everybody knows about IHOB, International House of Burgers, right? That was brilliant. A lot of times I think that I should be in charge of fast food places because I could come up with crazier stuff than they do. On the commercial screen, I've actually written a Taco Bell neural net commercial that I think is really good. Well, I wrote a neural net that wrote a Taco Bell commercial. It's really interesting. Yeah, so IHOB blew up everyone's brain, and it was amazing. The other great thing about IHOB is when they flipped it back, when people said you should focus on pancakes and not burgers, they released a hamburger where the patty was pancakes. It was beautiful. It's brilliant. I love that. Oh my gosh, it was great. And then, but that was not the only time they've done this. They also did, so there are 2 IHOPs. There's the International House of Pancakes, and then there's the International House of Prayer. And guess which one sued the other? I'll give you a hint. One was too busy praying to litigate. So yeah, IHOP sued the International House of Prayer for their brand. I do think that ultimately ended up being dismissed, but it was pretty wild. The other really cool thing about IHOP was that they are really huge in the United States and in the Middle East specifically. Like, these are the countries they exist in, and that's amazing to me. Kuwait, Qatar, Bahrain, the United Arab Emirates, the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, and Lebanon. That is a wild franchise model, and I love it. So, it brings us to our next restaurant, actually. It's like you read my mind. Sonny's Barbecue. Now, I have had a somewhat similar experience with Sonny's that has been explained here, where they... So I will say this. The one thing that killed Sonny's in the ranking is the same thing that killed Waffle House. I love both of these restaurants a tremendous amount. Sonny's has virtually no appetizers and desserts. Very, very few. The entrees, I love barbecue. I love all-you-can-eat barbecue. They still, by the way, for I know people in chat are talking about it, they still do have the all-you-can-eat barbecue. What I do is I go for the ribs. It's the only place that I know of where you can get all-you-can-eat barbecue ribs, and they are awesome. The pulled pork and stuff, I have had it. It goes in. I think they cook it in batches, and then if you like are on the tail end of a batch, you're not getting the primo stuff. But yeah, like it's really good. They also will do. When you order that, you do get all you can eat sides, and they have this barbecue sauce that is like kind of spicy. It's really really good, and as much as I like it on the meat, it's really really good on the fries. It's like the best sauce I've ever had for fries is this very particular barbecue sauce. You could, yeah, seriously. You could drink it. I will say Sonny's is a little bit of a heartbreak for me because right around the time I went to college, all the Sonny's in Atlanta, because of the way they're franchised, they were all owned by the same, I don't know if it was a group or an individual, but anyway, they all went bankrupt at the same time in 2008. So I went to college, and then when I came back for like breaks and stuff, all the Sonny's were closed. And that was super depressing. So I get really excited when I see one now. I love it so much. I wish that was on the list, but you can't really do all you can eat delivery. I wish. Oh, one day, eggheads in Silicon Valley will figure that out, and I'll be a happy man. This was a great place to go. My family used to go here all the time. I remember one time, my youngest brother, somebody got beans as a side that they didn't eat, and my youngest brother dared my mom to drink them because there was an extra straw, and so she like stuck it in and she tried, and of course it's beans, right? They're not really gonna go up a straw, but she kind of got some of the juice or whatever, and you know, because we are my family is uncultured, I guess is what I'll call us. I love it. It was the only way I'd ever want to grow up. Because the waitress comes over later to bring us our check, and she immediately clocks the straw in the beans, and she looks at I don't remember either me or one of my brothers, and asks, "Who been drinking them beans?" And the look on my mom's face when she had to sheepishly raise her hand, like it wasn't these hooligan kids who were drinking beans. It was the only grown woman at the table. It was very funny. My youngest brother would also do this bit he had with my dad where he would like hypnotize him, and he made my dad like get up like a zombie and walk out of Sonny's, and I just sat there eating ribs and the chicken. Oh man, it's great. I love Sonny's. So anyway, but the lack of appetizers, the lack of desserts destroyed Sonny's on this tier list. I couldn't rank it any higher. I wanted to, but I couldn't do it in a way that had any integrity to it. The aesthetic, it gets a few points. It's got a salad bar. That's whatever. It's really, really good. I would love to go to Sonny's again in the near future. And we've got Outback Steakhouse on this list. Now, this is where things start to get very tight and contentious because Outback Steakhouse almost made it into the 30 and up tier. It's really, really good. One of the things that gave it a lot of points on that certain je ne sais quoi category was that they were showing Counter-Strike on TV recently, and that's super cool. I'm a huge fan of esports of any kind, even for games that I don't play. I just love that it's going more mainstream. I'm really interested in the stories and the people because it happens so fast that you can see a lot of development in those stories in a really short amount of time. And to see that get more mainstream is super cool. I also love Outback Steakhouse because it lets you speak in an Australian accent freely in the world without getting too much judgment when you don't have an Australian accent at all and don't do any sort of dialect work. So that's super fun. It also, the food is obviously very good. The Bloomin' Onion has its own Wikipedia page, its own controversies. I think it was Men's Health magazine that rated it their #1 abomination some year because it's just like 1,500 calories of grease and horseradish and breading and onion. It's great. It's awesome. It's so good. And honestly, I thought it would be more than 1,500 calories with how kind of grody it is. I really like Outback Steakhouse. When I was in high school, I would steal all their coasters. So all my dorms and stuff in college were like flush with Outback Steakhouse coasters of different varieties because I would order like a water or whatever, and they'd like just slap down a stack of coasters on the table. Like, who are you trying to impress? Anyway, love Outback Steakhouse. It is bonzer. It's great. That's all I can say. And it's time for another checkpoint, guys. Oh, just kidding. Psych. I forgot. Sorry. Red Lobster tied with Outback Steakhouse. I haven't been to Red Lobster in a while, and I kind of want to remedy that. It's the best seafood that you can get when you live someplace landlocked. And it's just it's very good. They have a wide variety and some pretty interesting appetizers and desserts. Because it's the only place on this list that is specifically seafood. I was kind of surprised by that. There were a lot of fast food seafood places, Captain D's, Long John Silver's. Maybe there were only 2 actually when I did the fast food tier list. But when it came to casual dining, which let's be honest, fast food seafood should raise a few eyebrows. When it came to casual dining, this was the only game in town, and they seem to do it really well. The aesthetic is where it doesn't gain any points. America is a very coastal nation. That is mostly true. Yeah, I would say that. Yeah, sure, it is. I think not everybody lives with the same level of ocean access as others. Here in Atlanta, I have notoriously none. The biscuits are amazing. Yeah, that goes. So that was a tough one on whether I would count things like the biscuits in the appetizers and desserts or in that je ne sais quoi category, and I put them in the latter. Yeah, those cheddar biscuits are phenomenal. They really, truly are. Couple interesting things about them financially. They did an all-you-can-eat snow crab promotion for one weekend, and it cost the company $3 million because people ate way more snow crab than they thought they would. So that will not be coming back. They do all-you-can-eat shrimp periodically, and that does pretty well. Yeah, they that's not happening again. But so if you remember, in 2016, Beyonce did the Super Bowl halftime show, and she mentioned Red Lobster in one line of the song that she performed, and that alone increased their sales by 33% that quarter. It was insane. Red Lobster is like the ficklest of the tides. Their financial thing is. So yeah, this place, I have to give a lot of respect to any restaurant that is willing to destroy themselves financially to load up their customer base. That's awesome. I really do love and appreciate that about them. So Red Lobster is closing in. They're the highest scorers in our restaurants under that 30-point cutoff. We're about to get into the last tier of our list, this time for real. Whew. Ladies and gentlemen, it has been a ride up to this point. I want to thank everybody who has been with us before we get into these last few restaurants. There's only, I think, 3 left. And just say that I really appreciate everybody coming out and being a part of the stream. We're doing a 24-hour stream. I started at 9 a.m. this morning, and I'm going until 9 a.m. Tomorrow morning. So in chat, you can just type schedule and see all the other events that I've got scheduled. You can also type !commands and see the cool chat bot that I've worked on. The schedule's a little flipped. I ended up doing this fast food tier list a little bit later, doing Pony Island a little bit earlier, because I forgot the order that I put them in when I was streaming, and I couldn't look at the other tabs. Anyway, so please feel free to stay tuned. After this, we got a lot more programming going on. Also, I'm going to take a second to remind everybody, got a straw poll going. You can vote for what I have for dinner. Yeah, Pony Island was insane. Don't worry, it's all going to be up on YouTube. You can check me out. I'm at Lone Wolf Kevin on YouTube, Twitter, here, everything, same name, everywhere. So you can always check it all out. Anyway, take a quick second. Now that I've plugged my own work a little bit, let's take a second to look back at where we've been. We had Denny's, Olive Garden, Ruby Tuesdays, and CPK rounding out that bottom tier. It was... They're all really good places. I will say that I'm happy to have eaten any of these. Then up next we've got Golden Corral, Applebee's, O'Charlie's, Mellow Mushroom, Steak and Shake, and Taco Mac. Those are the places that when I drive past them, I'm definitely going to notice in a good way. Not like Olive Garden, which I notice like, I hope nobody asked me to go there. Texas Roadhouse, Fuddruckers, Hooters, Cracker Barrel, Buffalo Wild Wings, Waffle House, Cheesecake Factory, and P.F. Chang's. You know, something I'm kind of recognizing about these restaurants is I don't go to these as much as I wish I did. I kind of wish I had the time to eat out more, or maybe money. Maybe money's what I need to eat out more. I've got plenty of time to eat out more because I'm really excited about all of these places. TGI Fridays showed just the raw power of appetizers and pushed itself into that second highest tier. Red Robin, kind of similar, even though the snake stole my idea. IHOP, doesn't matter what you call it, it's great food, and they have a mean appetizer sampler platter that your boy loves. Although they will do you dirty on all-you-can-eat pancakes, which is not something I can say for Sonny's Real Pit Barbecue. Anybody in the Atlanta area ever wants to go get Sonny's, hit me up. We can we'll make an afternoon out of it. It'll be great. Outback Steakhouse. I should really highlight specifically their Alice Springs chicken is really good. I know they're a steakhouse and they do have very good steaks. I think they have the best chicken of any of these options. And then Red Lobster, I was kind of surprised. I'm not a huge seafood guy. I like fish, but I'm not like super into shrimp and all that kind of other stuff. Yeah, it's actually super good. And I was really impressed by the way they stayed true to being a seafood restaurant, but still having a wide variety of appetizers and entrees, of course, on point. So we're about to get into that last tier. And before we start, let me ask, is Duck Season that VR game where you play like a duck hunt style game? Because that game looks way too scary for me. I don't know if I can play it. All right, here we go. 30 points, just cracking into the God tier casual dining restaurant is Longhorn Steakhouse. All right, now, somebody who I very much admire and respect once told me that Outback Steakhouse is trapped because it's too fancy for the average day, but not fancy enough for a special occasion. It's like if your nephew was in town, you can go to Outback Steakhouse. But it's like a very specific level of event it has to be. Longhorn, on the benefit of being a little bit fancier, barely fancier, I think, is what pushed them from that 29 to that 30 points. Appetizers and desserts. So, oh no! Oh man, if you had if you had an Outback close by, you're probably mourning its loss. Ooh, someone who knows. So, yeah, I don't think Outback Steakhouse has a lot of good vegetarian options. They do have strawberry lemonade, which I love. So appetizers, right? Their answer to the Bloomin' Onion is the Texas Tunyon, which does feel like a higher quality snack, but I don't order the Bloomin' Onion because I'm caring about whether or not my ticker keeps talking. You know what I mean? I'm in there for the raw power. Longhorn does have desserts. It has very good desserts. Longhorn also has firecracker chicken wraps, which are like half taquitos. They're really, really good. It's kind of like a chicken egg roll, but it's hard to describe. Very, very good. Comes with this great sauce. The cheese fries, obviously great. Firecracker. The firecracker chicken wraps are to die for. The chicken is really good. The steaks are obviously great. I mean, Flo's Filet and the Renegade are steaks that I know by name, and I can't say that about a lot of other entrees at different restaurants. So, I don't know. They did a study about 4 years ago where they recorded every time somebody ordered a steak how they asked for it to be cooked, and they determined to what level Americans prefer their meat cooked. They prefer medium. About a third of Americans will pick medium as opposed to rare, medium, medium well, and well done. So really high percentage of people like medium. Yeah. Oh man. And of course, they'll load you up with bread. Some of their aesthetic choices are definitely because the original Outback, which I think, or I'm sorry, the original Longhorn Steakhouse, which I think also started here in Atlanta, was originally an antique store. So that's kind of cool and weird, and kind of explains a little bit of their ambiance. Yes, Outback was 29 points. It was below Longhorn Steakhouse and Red Lobster. So this is the best widely available steak that I have found. I'm sure there are other better steaks, but not at a place that's Longhorn started in ATL, not Outback. I misspoke. So yeah, all right. And what could beat out Longhorn Steakhouse though? This is a place that I obviously love. It's great. It's a little bit more special than when your cousin or nephew is in town. What do you do? What beats this? Well, let's see. QSL unfortunately did not make this list, but it because I hadn't thought of it when I made this, I should have it. It would have been pretty high up here. Benihana's. Okay, Benihana's is super cool. The biggest thing that kills Benihana's is, again, the no appetizer game. It turns out that's dropped a lot of places, a lot of points on this list. But their entrees are bomb. The aesthetic is great. The je ne sais quoi of it, of having that thing. You all know, when I say Benihana, you all are imagining your unique yet identical experience to everybody else, where the guy comes out and is like smacking the table with the spatulas, but the spatulas are apparently also sharp because he uses them to cut the onions, and he stacks them on as a volcano, and then he with the stuff, and it's an onion volcano. And then he's like cooking some shrimp, and he goes down the line. It's like, oh, I'm gonna flip one at you. Oh, I'm gonna flip a shrimp at you. Oh, I'm gonna flip a shrimp at you. And then he gets the last part. I'm gonna flip a shrimp at you. Whoop! Oh, it's in my hat. He flips a shrimp in his hat. It's awesome. These places are. It never gets old. It never gets old to me. I know it's all the same jokes. I know it's all the same goofs. It's so good. The food is phenomenal. You can go to any kind of knockoff place and get a really good experience. Yeah, the onion train where they. Oh yes. Well, I like onion dishes. I like onions. It's so good. It's hard to knock any food that's on fire when it's served to you, or when it's kind of flung at you. Oh, it's great. He'll draw a little heart in the I don't know what they use. I guess it's some sort of oil they set on fire. He'll draw a little heart, and everyone goes, oh, and then you feel the heat. The food is great. It's really fun because one person from the group that you go with, at least, is going to be sat against one person from the other group that you don't know, and your groups are not going to talk to each other, but you are going to be sat around the same table. Also, a really fun fact about Benihana, Hiroki Aoki, who, I may be pronouncing that wrong, who founded Benihana, qualified for the 1960 Olympics as a wrestler, chose not to attend. Very interesting. I think Benihana has a weird corporate structure where the Benihanas in America are not owned by the same companies as the Benihanas in Japan are not owned by the same company who owns the Benihanas in the Middle East. Oh no, it's actually a chain restaurant, and they're really good. It's very, very good food. It's, again, so I talked about like price to quality ratio and called that value when we talked about Cheesecake Factory. And I said Cheesecake Factory doesn't get that down the way that I wish they would. Benihana does an awesome job because it is more expensive than a lot of these other options, but the food quality is really up there to match it, and I can't fault them for that. And then, now, I know what you're all waiting for. The next restaurant that I am going to click on is going to be the final restaurant of this tier list. So take a second to reflect back on all your hopes and dreams, on all of the restaurants that you have wanted to see ranked throughout this last hour and a half that we've been doing this. And you're going to see it's Arby's. No, just kidding. It's Twisted Taco. I love Twisted Taco. I love Twisted Taco so much. So much. This place is phenomenal. When I turned 30, because I am an old, when I turned 30, my mom asked me, where do you want to go for your birthday? You can go anywhere. And I said, I don't want to go anywhere. And then she pressed me on it more and more and more. And I said, I want to go to Twisted Taco. And the look on her face, because she wanted me to say a country or a city or someplace in the world that I could go on a trip. And I said, I want to have lunch at Twisted Taco. Twisted Taco is an awesome Tex-Mex restaurant. I love it. It's designed like a Western town, like you would see on like a like a B-tier old Western show. And my favorite part about Twisted Taco is it has everything, right? It's got like a saloon, it's got like a jail, it's got like a hitching posts, and there's tables around all of it. And every time I would go in, and the like host or whoever's seating people would be like, oh hey, how many are in your party? I would like 3 or 4 or whatever. And I said, I have a party of 4, and I would like to be sat in the jail. And they will take you back to where you have a couple of like jail cells with boots in them, and you sit in the jail, and you can close yourself into the jail, and it's so great. And there's a little TV in the jail, so you can watch Shrek while you eat. Yeah, it is so good. The one thing that didn't, I think I may have rated Twisted Taco a little bit more high. I think my heart took over, and I rated the apps and desserts a little bit more. Oh, are they all in Atlanta? Because I know they're trying to expand. So the appetizers are awesome, but there's not a lot of them. That's kind of the one thing I had to knock them for. I probably should have knocked them more on the appetizers and given Je ne sais quoi a 10 out of 10 for the jail. This place is so good. I used to exclusively drink out of Twisted Taco cups because when you get a to-go cup, they just give you like a plastic cup, and I used to just I'd go there like once a week. So, and me and my brothers and my mom and would go, and so we'd get like 4 cups a week, and we just had a ton of these plastic Twisted Taco cups. It was like all I would drink out of it. It was great. They have so many tacos, and I have not tried all of them, and I always try to get different ones. And it's a restaurant where you can order like 3 or 4 tacos, and still always you can get 4 different tacos and them all be your favorite thing. They're all so good. And I'm not picky about like Tex-Mex food because I love it, but I am really excited when I can find that level. When I sit down, and figuring out what to get is difficult for me because I want all of it. And that's really cool. They have a really interesting plan for expansion, because the way they're trying to expand is predominantly through college campuses. They had a bunch of standalone locations around Atlanta, but I know that they tried to specifically target colleges for where they're going to grow up. So I'm hoping there's going to be more Twisted Tacos around, you guys. It is awesome. I love Twisted Taco so much, and it is the top scorer on my casual dining tier list. So let's take a look at the full shebang. This is it, everybody. These are the final standings of my list. So what do you think, right? What are the restaurants that I didn't have the experience to put on here? I know Fats Cafe and Cheddar's were ones. Quaker Steak and Lube was one that I should have put on here. I realized this morning that Chili's was suspiciously absent. And there's a lot of... I think Taco Mac is good, but I think Taco Mac is, again, it's a benchmark restaurant. It's not a standalone kind of thing. I mean, it's good, but yeah, take a look at this. Tell me